his position the same date and month that this country, Zambia, got independence. He was only 29 years old when he took over the leadership mantle. When the presidency gets sweeter and sweeter, he gave it up. Does this man serve as a good example or bad example of sports administration in Zambia? Does he have any regrets for leaving the seat which most people in this country crave to be in? Judo president, former Judo president Shapa Wakung'uma is my guest tonight on Tuesday Sports. And thank you so much for joining us, Zambia. And my name is Tim Zulu. And wherever you are at this particular hour, we wish to tell you that you can be part and parcel of this particular show for as long as you type TS and then you leave your space and send your message to 3322, and then you can add your contribution to this very program. Otherwise, you are very much welcome to be part and parcel of this show. You simply have to type TS and leave space and add your contribution and send them to 3322. Shapa, it's good to have you, and thank you so much for coming through to Tuesday Sports.
I'm grateful. I'm always happy to be here. I recall that the first time I came here to talk about the sport that I love so much in 2006, it was completely different from what it is today. So I'm grateful to Movie TV, and I think you're moving in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Let's start with the obvious question, Shapa. Your resignation as Judo president surprised or shocked many people when you did resign. Now, more so that you are still, very young and fresh to be in office. And then people are saying, Shapa has resigned today. A lot of people got shocked.
Yeah, I think I would like to start by saying that I became president of the Zambia Judo Association in 2006 in December. Of course, arising from the differences we had with the former administrators, we petitioned them, and because of that, we found ourselves in that situation. We went to an election on the directives of the National Sports Council of Zambia, and going into that election, of course, having been nominated as president of the association, and I went through. During my inaugural speech, I recall very well that for me it was virtually to do with the restoration of the lost glory for Zambia Judo Association. This, I mean that we wanted to see Judo get back to where it used to be in the days of Jude McKenna, where every time we went out of the country for international competitions, you're coming back home with some medals, or at least a good attribute to your showing out there. And so that hadn't been the case for several years, and there are a lot of factors that led to that. So when I came in, I think the first thing that came to my mind was, let us get back to those olden days. Let's have a strategy to ensure that Judo gets back to the glory days. Because I really believed in myself that I still had a lot of life in me as a player still, because you recall, I was not just president, I was also still a fighter, and I wanted to embrace the two, although people probably thought it was not going to be possible for me to carry on with that. So to really answer your question, yes, I resigned after serving for that short period of time, you would like to say, but then that was also to give an example to the youths at the time. Remember, I was just 29, and then I read a couple of comments from some sectors of the media that others labeled us as people that were just selfish young men coming to spoil the game of Judo. And so it gave me sleepless nights. When I had acquired the vision, achieved the vision that I had set at the time that I was elected, I thought there was no more that I could do for the sport. And I wanted to live to my word. And coinciding with the day that Zambia got its independence, and also we set that date for the Japanese National Ambassador's Trophy. It was a way of now saying bye-bye to the sport that I loved as president. Of course, temporarily, having identified Alfred Foloko as the most suitable candidate to take over from me. And we made it in a way that was progressing well. And that was just probably to live up to my word. And to give an example to everybody, especially those that were clinging to power for a long time in associations, a number of them with conflicts and all that, I wanted Judo to just be, an exemplary sport.
You mentioned, Sharpa, very well that you know, one of the key factors that led you to your resignation was that you know, you read from from this certain comments from the media saying probably, you know, these young people are just selfish, they're coming to destroy the game and all that kind of thing. Do you think the way probably the media, you know, talked about this issue of you being the president of Judo also forced you to resign?
The media kept me on my toes most of the times, and I was coming in at a time that things were not so good in sports generally. I recall that we had, as a country, competed in several international competitions at global level, for instance, the Olympic Games, and every time it was bad news. And coming in as president, it was a very big challenge for me, because first of all, people were looking at me as a person that maybe would turn around the fortunes, and the media wanted results, definitely. And I thank the media for the role that they played at the time, and the role that they still keep on playing, because they provide a lot of checks and balances. And because of that, I really didn't want to disappoint my fans. I didn't want to disappoint the sport that I love so much. And especially that Father Jude was always mentoring me, talking to me, wanting me to be, you know, above board in terms of discipline, in terms of everything. You see, he's the greatest sensei that I've ever had since I started Judo. And I always went to consult him. Even at the time I was becoming president, I sat down with him. He sat me down. He told me, you could be young, Sharpa, yes, but I look at you as the most likely person to lead Judo to greater heights. And he gave me a lot of advice. I think I want to recall that at one stage I told him that he who paves way for the great paves way for his own greatness. I remember talking to Father Jude when I was way too young, about 14, when I was in Mongo with him. And he asked me a simple question: what do you want to become in life? And then I looked at him and I said, you've got a great team. He was in charge of people like Leighton Mafuta, James Mafuta, my former coach, Linosi Francis, Stephen Kailo, to mention but a few, who had this great talent. These were national team players who, when they came to Mongo to practice, you would see that there's something in them that we were lacking as young boys. But then they were an inspiration, you get the point. And then I told Father Jude that one day I want to become like them, or even better. And he saw from the way I was doing things that, yes, there was something in me. So leadership at the time, for me, started way back in Mongo, because I was identified among us, the young judokas, as somebody that had the potential to inspire the rest. Yeah, so it started from there. And I really didn't want to disappoint my sport, my fans, and basically the general populace. And so I lived up to my word as an example, as a role model. And up to now, I sit back and see my sport growing bigger and bigger without me practically being involved.
Right. So, Sharpa, now, how would you rate your time in office as a president, Judo president, if you compare your time as well as that time of, you know, your predecessor, that is Madam Matilda Mwaba? How do you compare the two?
Well, Matilda Mwaba was a great leader. She set the platform for me. Matilda came with a lot of things in Judo, having taken over from a difficult time. First of all, I want to mention that when Matilda came through, she also came through at troubled times, because we had a leadership crisis even at the time that Matilda was coming into play. I remember that there was a Masha Bashir who was president for, I think he is the shortest serving president for the Zambia Judo Association, having served for just about 5 to 6 months. And we threw him out because he couldn't really manage the sport of judo. So Matilda was the chairperson at the time for Zambia Police Judo Club, and he played a very big role in uniting judo in the police as chairperson, and making sure that she built structures. For instance, I know at police headquarters, we had a structure that was well done, because she was there as chairperson. She had a secretary, she had a treasurer, and she encouraged other clubs which were under police headquarters judo club, like Lilai, where I was. And she normally conducted a lot of training seminars amongst us to just inculcate the sense of leadership that was so required to make sure that we enhance the progression of judo in our country. And because of that paved way for her to become president. And I think at the time she was actually serving as vice president to Jude McKenna. So when we decided to do away with Masha Bashir, she was the person that we thought could take up the mantle. And when Matilda stepped in the shoes, she did practically well. I think at the time Matilda was coming through, judo became something to be talked about in the media every now and then, being the first female president for judo, not just in Zambia but in Africa. And then she knew how to market the sport of judo. That is one thing that I learned from her. So to rate myself in terms of administration against my mentor like Matilda would be a very difficult thing to really do. I can't strike the balance between the two, but all I can say is that she built the platform. She set the stage for me. I just came in to carry on with her vision and tried to do that which I thought she didn't do at the time during her time as president of the Zambia Judo Association. So I just built on to what she left.
Right.
Yeah.
So let me take you back to the constitution, Shapa, because you know, this is an issue which you know, most associations actually are having a problem or two because of the same. In terms of judo, when it comes to the president of judo, what does the constitution say regarding on how long one should be in office as president?
Fortunately for others that would want to aspire for life presidency, it favors them because it really doesn't inhibit anybody for a specific period of time. But I think that is a very big defect in my view. I think maybe National Sports Council should come in to remedy this situation. It doesn't just apply to judo alone, it does apply to other associations. And I think that is a problem on its own. You cannot have a situation where you are not regulated by the constitution in terms of how long you should be president. Our constitution for Zambia Judo Association allows somebody to be president indefinitely. Okay. A term is about 4 years, for instance. It doesn't restrict somebody. It doesn't restrict me as well to get back and compete or to fight for presidency, for instance. I think that is something that we need to sort out as a judo family, to really make sure that for the sake of building our sport, we need to put our constitution first in order. It is defective.
Right. It is defective, you mentioned, and you also said that National Sports Council of Zambia need to do something about it. What exactly do you think the National Sports Council of Zambia should do to make sure that probably this constitution are really amended in a way that it won't be leaving people, you know, with you know, those negative feelings, say, you know, he's there for the rest of his life or things like that. So what should the National Sports Council of Zambia do about it? One opinion. Yeah,
being a regulatory body that supervises sport in our country, I think they need to step in and just see what is obtaining in all associations, starting with their respective constitutions. I think that some of these constitutions are made in a way that suit the administrators of that particular period of time, without having to look at the effects that it has if it's abused, so to say. You see that most of the infighting that you see in association is as a result of their own making, because of the constitutions which are defective. And so the National Sports Council should just come out and say, this is how you need to do things, put your administration in place by rectifying this and that. But that really is not, it may not be a baby for National Sports Council, but when we have persistent problems in associations, they just have to, they can't give a blind eye, they can't afford to sit back and relax. I think they just need to step in and rectify the situation.
Right, let me now take you back to your personal career. I know that you've been a judoka for a number of years and you did very well in terms of judo. And again, looking at your presidency also, I'm not very sure how you performed. Probably you could be in position to tell us how you performed as president, because I know that your career springs back to that of being a judoka.
Yeah.
Now, how did you serve as president of judo, when you compare yourself as a judoka as well as president of judo?
Okay, I'll start. First of all, I'll start as a player. There's no doubt that I was one of the greatest judokas that this country has ever seen. Coming from a humble background and reaping all those medals that I have, becoming the first ever Zambian to get a gold at the Commonwealth, and as a result of that, for the very first time, the Zambia national anthem played, courtesy of Shapa Wakung'uma at the Temple Mall Hall. I remember very well, 12th June 2006. for the first time I had to drop tears of joy because I knew I was going to be recorded in golden colors for having done that for my country. So many medals, of course, other than that. And I think I did very well, and that culminated in the president honoring me with the President's Medal for Meritorious Achievement, becoming, of course, the first police officer to get that award, maybe the only one, and one of the very few citizens. So I pride myself in that. But then, coming to your question, the other part, as president of the association, when I took over in 2006, we didn't have so much the required equipment that would make us progress. By this I mean the judo suits and the judo mats, so that we could be able to practice judo in most of the parts that we had our clubs. And so what I did then was to make a proposal to the Japanese government through the Embassy of Japan for a grant. And I recall very well, I worked very well with Wilfred Gama, my colleague who was also in the police and at the time was General Secretary of the association, and ensured that we got equipment worth then 2 billion kwacha in form of kit, various kit, which property is still available up to now. And that is one of the greatest things I've ever done as president of the association, which I think was our cry. And then the other thing, of course, was that for a long time as a player, I've never had a scholarship myself. It was very shocking, I think, to some that I would come from Lilai, without camping, board on a plane, go to the UK or to Canada and still compete with those high-profile players and emerge victorious. You get the point. And so I looked at my situation and I was asking myself a question to say, had I had the opportunity to get a scholarship for 2 years or so, what would I have become? Obviously, I would have been an Olympic champion or a world champion. Those are the two major events that have eluded me. And because I didn't have that opportunity, I should not have, I should have turned that around to ensure that the judokas that I led at the time as president should get the opportunity that I never got. And so we had Matthews Bunza and Boas Munyonga and Malambo getting scholarships to go to Algeria in 2009. I think that is one of the things that I have managed to do. Besides that, of course, we managed during my time to host a very big international event. The Zone 6 Judo Championships was hosted here in Zambia in 2009, and we also had an African Courage Championship. So I wanted to gauge myself in terms of leadership to be able to host, for instance, big events, and also to provide certain scholarships that I've mentioned, and to provide the association with certain incentives like the one I've talked about, the aid that we got from Japan. So based on such, I think I can rate myself fairly well in terms of administration. So I may not have done so much, but I think with that I really have done something.
You were only 29, Shapa, when you took over the leadership over the presidency. Were you experimenting with leadership?
I wasn't, not at all. I believed in myself. I knew I was a leader. I still believe I was born a leader. Why? Because even at the time I was in Mongu, Father Jude left us when I was in grade 10. He was transferred. He's a captain priest. He left the club in my hands, and Judo didn't die. I managed to control it using, of course, the structures that were there at Mongu Teachers Training College. I recall Mr. Michael Mabenga was a principal, and we made him chairperson. Virtually, I went to speak to him myself, and I told him that I am the only available person that can take this, but we want you to be chair for our club, and I want you to help me to grow the sport. I was there as a technical person giving guidance, and we came for national tournaments in Osaka. I recall very well, and with that, coming to Lilai as a trainee constable in 1995, taking over as a coach at the time, I managed to do all that. At the time I was becoming president, even though people said I was too young to head the association, I believed in myself. So I was not experimenting at all. I had what it took at the time to be able to be president of the association. And remember, a year later I was elected as a committee member at the Commonwealth Judo Federation conference in Northern Ireland, I eventually lobbied for that position. I campaigned for it, and I was given the votes. I spoke well during that conference, and all those who were there to attend probably thought and realized that I was one of the best people that could comprise or compose that association executive committee. So I found myself in a situation where at one stage I would be sitting in the boardroom making decisions on behalf of the Commonwealth Judo countries, Commonwealth countries that participated in Judo. And then the following day they would see me on the mat fighting. So it was quite unique, but I think it was really a lesson well learned for me, an experience that I will always live to cherish.
Yeah, but Shapa, if you say you are not experimenting with the presidency, I think you shocked you shocked a lot of people, because at the time when you were at your prime time of your career, you are only 29 years old, and then you are in office for only about 3.5 years, and then all of a sudden you woke up in the morning and say, "Hey, people, I've resigned my position as as Judo president," and you know very well that this is an issue where people, if you want to be president of an association, they want to be there for so long. But you only took 3.5 years, and you say, "I'm giving it up," and you didn't even finish your term. You said, "I've resigned." But why did you quit so early, just 3.5 years?
I had a vision. When I took over the mantle of Judo, there's certain things I put in place. I had a benchmark that I had set for myself. I should have gone beyond 2010. But then as early as 2009, I called for a meeting, and I addressed, during the AGM, I told everybody that I was looking for a successor. And I told them openly that the best I could do was to make sure that somebody else carries out my responsibilities in my absence, and ensure that the sport grows, because at the time we had I think achieved more than 100 medals from various international competitions. We had already identified structures that were working so well, and at the same time I just wanted to see that I relax, watch that which I had done for my country, and just be an example. Well, of course I would have gone beyond that, but I just felt it was going to be indiscipline for me to carry on or to ignore my words that I had regulated this way from the beginning.
But you mentioned with the benchmark, Shapa. Did you achieve your benchmark?
Definitely, definitely so.
Years?
Of course I did. I did that. We were now crowned champions in terms of Commonwealth, and you recall that as president, I also got a medal in the All Africa Games that only came 20 years after struggling to get a medal. And I told the judokas that if as president of the association, I can go out there, compete, get a medal, what about you? So what is it that you want me to do? I've sent you to school. I've given you scholarships through my administration, and I want you to lead by example now that you have these incentives in place. I called Alfred Foloko. In fact, in 2010, when he was in Liberia, I told him, "You are the next president. I'm stepping down on 24th of October, by which time you'd have come back from Liberia from a peacekeeping mission. And you should prepare yourself to take up the challenge. And remember that this country is now a renowned country in terms of judo. We are able to get medals at Commonwealth, All Africa Games, and regional competitions. Yours will be to help us get an Olympic medal, or indeed a world medal." And so that is what Alfred is working at right now, which is what we had planned for initially. So that's why we are constructing a judo arena at the OIDC. Of course, it is to ensure that we start building the future, to make sure that we are able to accomplish that objective. I would safely say that I had achieved that which I thought I should, and safely resigned and left the association in very good hands.
But others who are saying probably Sharp might have resigned because probably he saw that there was nothing beneficial, that he's getting, for him to be president of Judo. Do you think maybe there was, because others would stay in the office because they're benefiting one or another, but you left it 3.5 years, and that people are saying probably there's nothing to benefit as president of Judo. This is why the man has left, probably for greener pastures or something like that.
Not for greener pastures, no, but I left it at the time that it was even sweeter. I had a free ticket every time to go to Japan to go and meet my master every time, because I was president of the association. I had a ticket every time to go to go wherever the conferences were held under the IJF, and I had other privileges that accompanied all those things. And the status of just being president of an association goes with a lot of incentives. Sometimes, depending on what you do, how you carry yourself, and all that not. I had all that it took, and it made you. I think I became a little bit known in terms of sport because of my career in judo as a player and as president of the association. And people obviously were shocked to see me resigning. But then I wanted to live to my word, really, and the nature of job that I am doing sometimes cannot conflict with certain things. So you really have to weigh options very well and look at the situation the way it's supposed to be looked upon. You have to be exemplary in terms of your behavior. If you have set a certain platform or a certain benchmark and you achieve it, just live to your word. It's about integrity, after all. It's about your future. What am I going to become after this, for instance? If I were going to clinch to power, and what example am I setting to the ones that we are leading? And I believe I'm a role model. When I became the first Zambian to get a gold at the Commonwealth, I saw myself being crowned a champion during that event, being honored by the president. Even at the time that I was getting that medal, I knew that the country was going to honor me. And after the president gave me the medal in 2011, what else would I really want to achieve beyond what I have achieved of all the medals that I got? So I have certain things that I've set for myself, certain targets that I've set for myself, that after this, the next thing I should be able to do is this. I can only inspire the association through its leadership now. When I sit back and advise, they consult me regularly, I meet them. I'm more or less like a life president. When I get on board to advise them, I think they get my advice. They take it so seriously. I still assist them, in one way or the other. So, yes, I may not be actively involved in judo. I don't need to be president for my presence to be felt. I don't need to be anybody in the association. I'm still there with them anyway. So, yeah.
So, Shapa, what are your current aspiration now, or maybe you are content with where you are now as director of sports, or you still have some more aspiration as to wanting to serve in probably other association or so?
First, I want to thank my employers for even according me the opportunity to be director of sports. I think all this was as a result of what I have been doing as a sportsman in the police, judoka in particular. From Lilai, I recall I used to be given a lot of time to practice judo. I recall the CEO at the time when I was there, Ryan Chitova, would give me even up to 2 months to prepare for events.
So in short, what are your current aspirations?
Well, there is life beyond what I am as director of sports. Of course, in the police, I can still be somebody else. And in terms of sport generally, what is the highest office in sport? Is it PS sports, or is it minister? Well, I'm not trying to be political, but then I can go beyond what I am. Okay. Yeah, I want to serve either at National Sports Council level or National Olympic Committee level. I think I can do better there because I've been through all the stages.
From the time you left, is judo progressing or static? It's
progressing. Okay. I talk to you now, telling you that Zambia has just got more than 12 gold medals. I think in the ongoing, the recently ended event in Swaziland, and we have an African champion in Joshua Nyondo, a young boy, and the other girl. So it's progressing. We're making positive strides.
Are you a good example, a bad example of sports administrator in Zambia?
I don't know. I leave it up to you people to judge me.
Shapa, thank you so much for coming through to Tuesday Sports.
I'm grateful.
Well, if this man is a very good example of sports administration in Zambia, well, he simply says it's up to you, the people out there, to judge him whether he set a very good example, because he only served in office for 3.5 years, then he gave it up. He gave up the presidency for someone else. And here he is today. They still give him so much respect. And he's simply saying, if at all he is a very good or bad example, it's up to you, the people, to judge him. He has been my guest tonight, and look forward to another interesting program next week on Tuesday. Otherwise, you can simply say thank you so much, Zambia, for watching this program. And I know if you did contribute 1 or 2 comments, thank you so much for those contributions, and find time to go through those comments. And I'm sure at the end of the day, they will still enrich us, because a lot of people are learning something out of this particular show. Until then, this has been Tim Zulu, the boy from Petaoke, deep in the village.